Hey everyone, Ernie Tech here. What I wanted to do in this video is something I've been planning on and working on for quite some time, and that is to create an emulation or a demo system of the old American Airlines SABRE system, the reservation system that American Airlines and IBM put together. So let's get working on this. This is something that I've been planning since, well, working on since February of 25 this year. And it's teaching me how to program in REXX, which is a great programming language, especially given that it is interpreted so no compilation and linking, no object files, none of the old-fashioned stuff you just type and go, which I always enjoyed. All right, let's play around with some graphics first because it's got to be cute, right? All right, so what is it now? So let's remember now. Back in the 50s, after the war was over, World War II, a lot of pilots were looking for airline jobs. A lot of airlines were hiring. American Airlines specifically was growing quite quickly, and they had their DC-6s, Lockheed Electras, maybe even some leftover DC-3s and so on. But they were having a problem keeping up with the demand, the booking demand, the scheduling demand. And they had a system which was manual. It looked like this, very coding heavy, because it was essentially an electrical system. It was a system of cards and all sorts of stuff. It could take a long time. So if you were on the phone, and it was 1954, and you were on the phone to American Airlines, and you said, I want to fly from New York to Chicago on the 12th of April. I'd like to go sometime in the morning. It could take about an hour for all this to get booked. There was really a problem because scaling was becoming difficult. They couldn't grow the airline unless this problem was solved. And it was solved by an interesting meeting between two individuals. The two individuals both had the last name of Smith, and that was really important because somehow or another they realized they had the Smith last name. One was the actual president of American Airlines. The other guy was a salesman for IBM. Hang on, coffee time, hold on. Yep, Tim Hortons in a Buc-ee's mug. And the IBM guy said that they were working on a system for the Air Force to keep track of whatever the Air Force needed to do. And I'm not sure exactly what he told them because I think a lot of it would be classified, but nevertheless, it was called SAGE. And it was a scheduling, booking, tracking system for the Air Force. And they realized that it could be used as a commercial product if modified, adapted, recreated, whatever it took to create a system for the commercial American Airlines environment they wanted to do, and they came up with a name for it. It was called SABRE, which was short for the Semi-Automated Business Research Environment. And it would be something that would create very quick throughput. They would be able to book many flights in the course of the time it took to do one. And that, of course, was a great business boon to American Airlines and to IBM. So about $40 million later, in the mid-60s, they came up with this. They were able to do tens of thousands of reservations a day. It was the beginning of systems that were being developed for other airlines, Delta, Pan American, believe TWA, but I'm not sure. Overseas airlines, lots of different airline systems were working with IBM or whoever to develop systems that eventually would be merged together in a way, with the data anyway, so that when you go on to Kayak or you go on to any system right now, Google Flights, and you're trying to find your trip to wherever you're going, the roots of this were SABRE from back in the 50s. Okay, so to summarize, and I'm doing this very quickly because the primary reason for this video was not so much to give you a history of SABRE, but to show how I've created a SABRE demo, a SABRE emulator or simulator using REXX on a CMS instance. So anyhow, this is where it started, and the different airlines were using different pieces of equipment, different kinds of computers. You had Delta-Matic for Delta, you had Pan-Amac for Pan American using a 7080. Eventually, things moved into the 360 environment, and then, as I've read, they moved into a 370 environment because different iterations of the 370 were smaller and could be used at various locations in the United States, Canada, wherever, to further improve the throughput of the SABRE system, or the merged system, or the systems that talk to each other, so that there wasn't total pandemonium and chaos. And eventually, everything evolved into the airline's control program. Okay, what have I done and why have I done it? All right, well, let's have a look-see here. So let me just pop this into play. There it is. So I'm currently logged into CMS on a VM370 Community Edition instance. And what I've done is I've used Notepad++ on my client machine to develop this. And the reason why I did that is because I'm not good enough yet. I'm not skilled enough in the editor, the EE editor in CMS to do this efficiently. And as I started this out in Music SP way back, I could use FTP and move it in. So I was using Notepad++, so it's just easier. Full disclosure. Let's have a look. So right there at the bottom it says SABRE-DEM EXEC, and that is the program that I have been writing for quite some time now. Let me have a look at this here. It's about 160 lines long. It's not very creative. It does work now, more or less. There are some bugs, but for the meanwhile, let me explain to you what it is. So it is a way to take canned flight data that is actually in the program. Now, I was going to break these out into text files, but I haven't gotten to that yet. Probably not necessary, but to do something proper, I would. But these are canned, made-up flights. And these are canned, well, they're not made-up airplanes, they're the real thing, but that's part of another set of descriptions. There's seat inventory, there's the ability to sign in as a SABRE agent, there's the ability, all these things over here. This is some of the subset of commands that I've coded in this REXX file to simulate a SABRE instance or a SABRE session that you might be involved in if you were a travel agent and someone was on the phone with you and wanted to fly from New York to Chicago. So without getting too much into the woods, this is what it looks like. And I've tried to more or less faithfully use the coding that SABRE used, which was the roots of which were from back in the day when they had just a mechanical system. So that's it. That's what it looks like. What have I learned about REXX? Well, it is very robust. It's forgiving for the most part. It's easy to read. It does have some peculiarities. I found that concatenation was kind of a pain in the neck, but it works. But everything else, all the other kinds of constructs of looping and so on, do what they're supposed to. So not terribly difficult to learn REXX. All right, let's pop out of this just for fun. Do this right and jump out. And the name of the program is SABRE-DEM. And there it is. So what does it mean? Well, if you are a travel agent in the 60s or 70s or who knows when, and you wanted to log into your SABRE session, this is the kind of code you would put in. And what this means is that you're going to sign in. And this A asterisk means that you're going to sign in to all of the work areas that are available to you. And what a work area is this. You have 6 work areas, I believe. And each one is a place unto itself that you can handle a given transaction. So you could be on the phone with 6 individual people working on 6 individual booking transactions and keeping them separate from each other. You have all the same commands, but you're working in separate work areas so that you keep things nice and neat. And this means here that I will be logging into all of them simultaneously. Now, I haven't tried to create work areas because that is literally over my pay grade, but who knows, maybe someday if I get motivated, I'll try that. Or I'll have an epic fail, one or the other. Okay, if I typed in that SIA asterisk 01762, that gives me the entry into it. This tells me that the name of my travel agency, Waffle. I'm not 100% sure what all of this means. It has to do with sub-accounts and areas available. Currently, I'm in Area A. I can switch areas if I had coded that. A little bit of help. This is important here because this is how you query a given flight. Normally, they're kind of pushed together with a little separator between the departure and the arrival city called the city-city pairs. But it has a leftover feel of its predecessor where there is no prompt. There's nothing that says, okay, put in what you want to put in. You know by the blinking cursor what you need to do. So here's how it works. Gentleman calls on the phone. He says, I want to fly from New York City to Chicago. I'd like to leave around 9 a.m. on the 12th of April. Oops, I've given you. What do I have? What are my options? The agent would type in 12, APR, New York City, Chicago, and then it could put in the hour to give it in the way I coded it, an hour before or an hour after, or she could just leave it like that and return all of the available options. Well, here are your options, Mr. Jones. You can leave at 9 a.m. on American Airlines. Now, one thing I have to fix, if I feel like fixing it, is get the header column lined up with the data column. Easy to do, but just didn't do it. Anyway, American Airlines, Delta Airlines, American Airlines, and also I should have put them together sorted by time. Future stuff. All right, there's your flight numbers. There are your city pairs. There is your departure time, your arrival time, and for the travel agent, this tells her how many seats are still available. And she says, well, you've got the potential for a 9 a.m. flight on American Airlines 0433, leaving at 9, arriving in Chicago at 12:15, and it's on a DC-10. Do you want to book it? And he says, what else do you have? And she says, well, here's the other ones. And one thing leads to another, and he says, yeah, go ahead and book that. So she books flight number 1. Let me just get down here to the next page. Enter the passenger name. Well, his name is Jones. And he's booked. Booked passenger record number 1, passenger Jones. He has 1 seat, and if that's all taken care of and the transaction goes through, the next time she makes an inquiry for another passenger, another inquiry, it should have 1 less seat available on that flight because she's pretty much booked that one. Okay, let me see. He calls back and says, I don't really want to, I don't want to fly on that one. I'll do a different one. She says, all right. So she cancels that booking number. So now that's available again, and the number of seats available goes back up again. Maybe he says, I want to see just the flights that have DC-9s. Maybe he likes DC-9s. Who the heck knows? So one of the codes that SABRE has is equipment codes. There's lots of different kinds of codes. It grew into something that you could query for the kind of food you'd have on board. Maybe you wanted a vegetarian meal. Who the heck knows? But anyway, the coding was like this. WEQ asterisk, and then he's interested in the DC-9, so he goes ahead and does that, or she does that, and it returns all the different flights that just the DC-9 are involved in. And he says, oh, okay, so that 9 o'clock was a DC-9. Yep, that was it. Okay, well, I'm sorry, let's book that again. She goes ahead and books that, or just books 1, and goes ahead and goes through that again. And Mr. Jones is booked in there. Now, that is actually something that I have to fix, which I will, is that my cancellation didn't actually remove that. So it looks like Mr. Jones has 2 seats. So I recognize that, and I will probably not fix it because this is just for fun. But anyhow, that's kind of how the SABRE system worked. I put a little help facility in. I'll just go to the next page of what you can do with it. So how would be the format for booking? You'd book the number, cancel it. There would be a location identifier. You could go and see what was in there for a given passenger. Equipment code to determine what kind of planes were available. And then the bottom line was the sign out. So if it was done for the day, like I said, it had some bugs, but I was having fun with this, then you could go ahead and sign that out. And it would say agent sign out complete. And you're back to the ready prompt in CMS. So that was my exploration in REXX to create a fairly functional SABRE simulator. I'm not going to call it an emulator, I call it a simulator, with a bug or two, but it works. And I thought you might find that interesting. In case you had never really understood what the SABRE system was, that's kind of how it worked. And I thought it was a fun project. Anyhow, that's my video about SABRE and my explorations in REXX in CMS to build a somewhat functional SABRE simulator. So I hope you enjoyed it. Anyway, thanks for subscribing. Please subscribe if you haven't, and we'll come up with something new on the next video, and I really appreciate you hanging in there with me. Okay, I will see you later. Bye for now.